on this, at least in this part of the world, cold evening. I'm quite sure what the temperature really is. On all the different apps, I get different readings. So it's somewhere around about the freezing point anyway. And that's the same in Celsius or Fahrenheit. So 32, 0, it's somewhere in that region. And it's going to get colder overnight. So if you're in this region or anywhere in that storm track, then please take care. Today's reading is about, well, the value of spiritual practice. But first of all, I do have a quote of the day. It just touched on it a little bit, but I finally found it in my Joyous Abundance Journal. And it's by Tom Baudet. I don't know who Tom Baudet is. He says, in school, you're taught a lesson and then given a test. You probably guess what's coming. In life, you're given a test that teaches you a lesson. So there you are. In school, you get a lesson, then you get a test. In life, you get a test which teaches you a lesson. So that's pretty good. And from Rev Margaret today, we get to hear about the value of spiritual practice. The value of spiritual practice. Emerson's essays, page 47. This is what Emerson says. Everyone discerns between the voluntary acts of their mind and the involuntary perceptions. So it'll become clear. Ernest Holmes in the Science of Mind textbook says, it is the office of the imagination to set the view. It is the office of the imagination to set the view. And that's page 418 of the Science of Mind textbook. Maybe it's probably easier just to look at what Einstein said. He said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination is more important than knowledge. So let's get on with the reading. She says, through our reading and self-examination, we may have come to a place where we have a strong faith in our oneness with God and all of life. This is a great place to be. But in the world of consciousness, we will not just stay put. Mental states become flexible through self-introspection, but without consistent spiritual practices, they become unstable. Human mind's always churning, right? Always questioning things, always wondering about things. Then she says, I've often thought that the world of affairs cannot help us in our quest for spiritual equanimity. Equilibrium, if you like. We may feel okay in surroundings that are consistent with our beliefs, but these are not our only surroundings, right? We're people of the world at large, and so many negative circumstances can be thrown in our faces every day, which tends to make affirmative thinking difficult. This is true, right? Watch the news. Okay? Just watch the news. Hence, we have spiritual practices, mental exercises of a sort that will help keep us thinking clearly and which settle us to a calm gathering of the mind when we seek an inner truth. Reverend Jesse, my boss, is always preaching spiritual practice. So what are spiritual practices? Well, she's kind of mentioning some here. But anyway, she says prayer or spiritual mind treatment is, of course, an organization of thoughts toward an experience of wholeness. It's spiritual practice. Meditation or contemplation, they help us to know how to find the spots of spiritual stasis on which we can rest. That's the equilibrium despite opposing forces, right? There is deep satisfaction and sometimes a safe port in life storms to be found, even in the simplest of spiritual practices. To embrace them helps us to assure us of an opening to the sense of presence. So in other words, we need to spend some time in prayer and quiet time each day. And as she says, read good stuff, listen to good stuff, be in the company of like-minded people, and so on and so forth. So these are all good practices, at least in my opinion. They're all good practices. Because, Jesus, and I quote Jesus because I grew up as a Christian, as a Catholic. So If I'd have grown up as a Muslim, I'd be quoting other sources. If I grew up as a Buddhist or a Hindu, I'd be quoting other sources. But if you look back, all spiritual teachers have told us the same things, but just in different language. And he compared it to a house built on rock. That's your spiritual practice. When the storm comes, it withstands it. But the house built on sand, no spiritual practice, gets washed away when the trials of life come along. So that's kind of where it is. So anyway, I just came back from the gym and I need to get moving with different things here. I love my times of quiet with the presence. This is an affirmation, right? I love my times of quiet with the presence. I open myself in prayer, meditation, and study to divine self-well-being. I open myself in prayer, meditation, and study to divine well-being. And in the class, I think I mentioned it the other day, one of the things we're looking at in our class that's going on right now is actually affirmations. And we learned that affirmations should be personal, they should be in the present tense, and they should be positive, because you're affirming something that is. You're not affirming something that's going to be, you're affirming something that is, because your mind can accept that and it can work on it and it can bring that into your personal experience. So that is a spiritual practice, affirmations. So I really don't have much more. Reverend Jesse gave his talk today from home. Actually, he recorded it Friday, and it was broadcast today at 11 a.m. Central Time. Reverend Lisa, I believe, was on at 9:15 this morning. She'll be back at 9:15 a.m. tomorrow. And these are all Central Time. And I'll be back, hopefully, at 5 p.m. tomorrow. We'll see what happens. And please, if you're in this part of the world or any part of the world where the weather is really awful, then please take care. It looks okay out there, and it probably is right now, but it's going to get colder. And if there's any precipitation with it, then it will get really ugly. So let's just know that at least here, there's no precipitation, and we just get the cold without the precipitation. So until next time, namaste.